Hey everybody, Satoli here with History in Your Own Backyard. Today, I'm in St. Charles, Virginia, which is kind of on the edge of being a level 4 ghost town. There's not much here anymore. There was a population of 500 people at one time. I think that was back in the 1950s. Now they're down to about 75 people. But we're going to come through here. We're filming it right now. And I'm going to go over some of the history of the town and what it looks like now and what it used to look like. Have a great day. If you live in St. Charles, have lived in St. Charles, or have any connection to St. Charles, please leave a comment below. Although St. Charles isn't an official ghost town, I thought it was important to document this coal mining town before any more structures are lost to time. St. Charles, Virginia is located in Lee County in the southwest tip of the state. In the late 1800s, coal mining exploded in the mountains of southeastern Kentucky and southwestern Virginia. In the Lee County, Virginia area, mining camps popped up like Bonny Blue and Benedict. St. Charles was the main hub for at least 8 of these camps for the mining companies, including Bondurant Coal Company and Black Mountain Mining Company. The first train arrived in St. Charles in 1906, and the first bank opened the next year in 1907. In the early years, coal companies paid their workers in Coal Scrip. These metal tokens could only be redeemed at the company store to purchase food or clothes or to pay rent for the housing provided by the company. This ensured that the workers were always in debt to the company, basically guaranteeing their loyalty to that coal company. In 1907, St. Charles was named after combining the names of a coal company official, Charles Bondurant, and his office assistant, whose surname was St. John, hence St. Charles. In 1908, a post office was established in St. Charles and is still one of the few remaining entities surviving in the town today. By 1910, the combined population of St. Charles and the surrounding coal camps was about 1,000 people, with reports that the population of all these camps grew to over 10,000 by 1928. In 1913, before St. Charles even became a city, the first automobile was driven into town by Omer Relford, driving a national automobile. In 1914, the town was incorporated by the Lee County, Virginia Circuit Court on January 10th. Also in that year, a toll road was opened to Pennington Gap, just 5 miles south. In 1915, the town was electrified and lights glowed at night throughout the streets. In 1924, St. Charles became so busy and established that the mud streets were smoothed over with concrete, the first town in Lee County to have concrete roadways. By 1928, the coal fields in the St. Charles area were producing 140 carloads of coal per day. With that much prosperity, 30 businesses were now serving the public in St. Charles in the late 1920s. Over the years, St. Charles had 3 movie theaters, the Rainbow, the Virginian, and Turner's Station. They also had a Kroger store, trucking companies, had their own police and fire departments, cafes, taxi cabs, and a city bus. The Fry Furniture Company was located here. Markets were up and down the street. A railroad depot was at the one end of town. A beauty shop was there. A sewing factory, a hardware store, bars, restaurant, a hotel, a car dealership, laundromats, a bottling company, clothing stores, gas stations, dentist and doctor's offices, a pharmacy, an auto parts store, a skating rink, and a candy company. Heck, St. Charles had it all. Unfortunately, between the new mechanized mining equipment reducing the need for manual labor and the coal seams running out, the mines began shutting down one by one. In the 1950 census, St. Charles alone had 550 residents. By 2020, the population dropped to only 72 people. When we were there in December 2025, there were probably more roosters in town than people. In 2022, the Virginia General Assembly passed a bill to terminate the town's charter, citing that no one had run for office in the past 2 elections. Although only a shell of its former self, St. Charles has some very interesting stories to tell. During World War II, one of the Rosie the Riveters was Kelly Parsons Long, who was born in nearby Eli Puckett's Creek, Virginia, just 2 miles southwest of St. Charles. St. Charles once had a beautiful train depot right in town. Unfortunately, it was purposely set on fire in 1976 by an arsonist and burned to the ground. In the late 1970s, the Bank of St. Charles was robbed by a local resident who was apprehended later that day. It was reported that it appeared he had a gun in his pocket during the robbery, but apparently, after the arrest, it was determined he only had a banana. Some people now call this the Great Banana Bank Robbery of St. Charles. Unfortunately, the bank closed in 1989. Leela's Cafe was once a popular restaurant in town and stood right next to the post office. That too was set on fire by an arsonist in 2017, and the entire building was lost. In the late 1930s, religious sects in the South began snake handling as a way of defying the devil and trusting that God would protect them from poisonous bites. In 1947, St. Charles was part of this bizarre ritual, with Reverend Oscar Hutton of the Holiness Church being a familiar face during these events along the Kentucky and Virginia border. These events eventually were outlawed in some areas, and the state police would be sent in to arrest the violators. In 1977, the United Mine Workers of America conducted a nationwide strike which included the St. Charles area. The strike lasted 110 days and is widely seen as a concessionary contract. Workers lost their cradle-to-grave health and pension benefits, were forced to pay for part of their health care for the first time in 30 years, and were forced to resume working under a productivity bonus system eliminated in 1946. Meanwhile, the union's primary goal, winning the right to strike over local issues, was never accomplished. This high school was built in 1927 with 4 additional rooms added in 1928. The school closed in 1970. The first graduating class was in 1930 with 7 students receiving their diplomas. The building is still used as an elementary school, which includes the main office, the gym, and the classrooms. St. Charles has experienced flooding from time to time, but in 1977, the town was hit with several floods, with the April 4th storm categorized as the worst storm in the past 100 years. Straight Creek, which flows through the center of St. Charles, flooded extensively, although the main portion of the storm hit about 75 miles northeast of town, dumping 15.5 inches of rain over a 3-day period on the town of Jolo, West Virginia. St. Charles had at least 1 bottling plant and possibly up to 3 plants. A bottling company owned by G.W. Barker bottled Orange Crush. This company may have also bottled Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, as there have been bottles found featuring both brands with the St. Charles name embossed on the bottle. This video from 1986 shows a Christmas parade going through town. However, the town is not dead. It's just downsized from what it once was. We met some really nice people in town when we visited back in December of 2025, and there's some great people on the Facebook pages of St. Charles, Virginia, and the Humble Beginnings in Lee County, Virginia. If you're not on either one of those Facebook pages, you might want to check those out. On top of that, St. Charles is having car shows in the downtown section. They've already had one this year, and they plan to have another one on May the 16th. As I mentioned before, if you live in St. Charles, have lived in St. Charles, or have any connection to St. Charles, please leave a comment below.